Okay, it is official. The day is here, guys. Steam Machine. Let's take a look at this one. This one's going to be really fun here. Here we go. Steam Machine is here. Sign up now. I wonder what we can expect out of the Steam Machine. Everybody has been talking about it. Actually, not everybody's been talking about it, but there have been a lot of people that have been talking about this thing for a very long time, ever since Valve originally unveiled it. And one of the things that people have been wondering about is how much is this thing going to cost? Now, Valve originally talked about this thing several months back, almost a year ago at this point. And you have to bear in mind the market was very different. Before we get to that, I did want to bring your attention to a video I did a few months back, talking about video game retail in 2026 is going to be hell. This is going to be one reason why, as you're about to find out. Here we go. Steam Machine, your games on the big screen. $1,049 for the base model without a controller. This is not even with a controller, guys, that they are charging for this. This features a semi-custom AMD Zen 4 6-core 12-thread processor with RDNA 3 graphics that have 28 compute units, 16 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, and 8 gigabytes of GDDR6 VRAM, 512 gigabyte NVMe SSD with a microSD card slot. Got the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Ethernet, Steam controller wireless adapter built in. I guess otherwise you have to use a USB if you're using it on like a desktop or whatever. 6-inch cube, which is pretty small. It is a pretty small form factor, not much bigger than a GameCube. I think that's close to the same size. I think this might be a tiny bit larger than that. And then, of course, it has the latest version of SteamOS 3. You can also get it with 2 terabytes for an extra $300, guys. So if you want to upgrade that storage, that's how much it costs. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Of course, we already know that's just the way things are nowadays. It is absolutely crazy. Let's go ahead and pop over to Newegg real quick and just take a quickie look at what you could get in that price range as far as like for a gaming PC. Okay, so here we go. We've got a gaming desktop Stormcraft gaming PC with the Intel Core i5-14400F. It's got a GeForce RTX 5060. Got the 16 gigabytes of RAM. Got the 1 terabyte SSD. $899. $899. Now, of course, it is important to note, of course, it's not going to have the slim form factor, but it's also important to note you're not going to have to buy a controller with this thing. It's going to come with a mouse and keyboard with that. So you will be able to play your games right out of the box. Technically, you cannot do that with the Steam Deck unless you connect a controller. So that means you're going to have to either buy that Steam controller bundle for an extra $80, which saves you like $20 over buying the Steam controller separately, of course, or $79, whatever. Or you're going to have to use your own like PlayStation or Xbox or similar style controller, potentially connected with Bluetooth. Otherwise, you might have to plug in with a USB cable or adapter or something like that, just to actually use this machine at all. So, that's an additional cost you have to factor in there. Even if you get like a cheaper controller, like I have, for example, here, my 8-bit DOE wireless 3C, which this is actually like my go-to controller nowadays. Oh, and it's purple too. It's purple. Look at that. Very light purple, mind you. I paid like $30 for this on Amazon. And it is honestly, I've got all these Xbox Series X controllers. I don't even touch them anymore. This is honestly better in a lot of ways. I really like the shape. It has Hall effect joysticks, which are awesome. It has a better D-pad than what you're going to get on the Series X. It has extra mappable buttons that you can use. It's actually really nice. But that being said, this is absolutely insane. I knew, see, like when they first announced the Steam Deck, I was thinking, realistically, the price would be like $699, and I was thinking with a controller too, mind you, because like it's kind of crazy to release a console without a controller, if you ask me. I was thinking maybe even $599. You know, like if they were really wanting to kind of push that budget, because the price of the components really wasn't that crazy at that time. But, you know, things have changed clearly quite a lot. Like, let's look up 512 gig NVMe SSD, which is what this comes with here. Looks like that's going to run you, well, none of these are very reputable things, but I'm sure it's probably using like one of the smaller 2230s or something like that due to the small form factor. I mean, they could be using a full size. I mean, there's no reason they couldn't, obviously. But you're still looking at like $100 plus, at least for a brand you've heard of. So, but yeah, I've heard a lot of these. Like Kingston, I've heard of them, obviously. But damn, that Kingston's almost $200 for a 512 gig. That is for X4 PCI Express. Yep. And look at that 2 terabyte NVMe SSD because it was a $300 price difference. Let's see. Oh, you can get that Crucial for $269. That is without the heatsink and all that good stuff. Yeah, $334. So you are paying a premium. Like, you know, even though it costs $300 more, you can get a 2 terabyte for about $300. So you're kind of getting screwed over by Valve there in that regard. You know, like that's kind of crazy. Yeah, even if you go with like a higher end one like the Western Digital, that's $350. So yeah, that's insane though. The absolute insanity of these prices. You know, the RAM prices, everything like that. They did not upgrade the specs at all because these are the exact same specs that they originally announced when they first announced the Steam Deck, or Steam Machine rather, and just utterly insane. I mean, I'm sure, like, in terms of the design and everything like that, this thing is going to be pretty nice. You know, like, you do have, like, those changeable face plates. That's really cool. You know, it's definitely got a very sleek design. You know, no doubt about that. But I'm curious, like, if we were to look at a small form factor gaming PC, I don't know if they would really have something like that, but we could check and see what they've got. Let's see here. Okay. Well, let's look at this thing right here. See price and cart, free shipping from China. I'm not sure exactly how this would compare. Like if this is like a bare bones or what the deal is with this here. Let's look at the details. So that has a GTX 1650. That's an older thing, of course. I imagine that'd still be weaker than what the Steam Machine would be, obviously, because just a lot more newer technology. Let's see if I can find something else. It's not really saying that. I mean, you can easily get a gaming laptop for cheaper, too. Let's look at those. Okay, so here we go. We got an Acer Nitro V15 gaming laptop. It's got the RTX 5050. You can get that for $949. Again, not going to need mouse and keyboard. Let's see what the storage and all that stuff. This has got a built-in display, 165 hertz. You're going to have the 512 gig NVMe SSD built in. So that's cheaper. And, you know, it's like the part of the appeal is the Steam OS. You know, you can just install that. It's not a big deal. Like, it's actually very easy to install Steam OS. I actually have my mini PC set up on that. Works pretty nice. Get this MSI Cyborg for $50 more. It's going to have the RTX 5060, which honestly, it's probably going to run circles around the GPU of the Steam machine. I'm not sure if they have like actual benchmarks, but I would wager that it's going to. Like I just have a hard time. Let's look at a RTX 5060 laptop GPU. We'll take a look at the specs here. Okay. So it's kind of trickier to compare like AMD to NVIDIA with their stuff because they kind of do things a little bit differently in terms of their processors and things like that they use on these graphics processing units. So you can't really go by just those specific numbers. Like it says like 33, 28 shader CUDA cores, 104 tensor cores. That obviously sounds like a lot more than 28 compute units. But it doesn't really work in the same manner at the same time. They do handle things differently with the processing and whatnot. So, but I'm curious if there's any Steam Machine benchmarks. I'm curious if we've got anything like that going here. Got the Geekbench 6 benchmarks, giving a single core of 2300, multi-core of 7300. This is, of course, according to this AI generated answer. So let's actually look at one of the sources here to, let's see. Here we go. Valve Steam Machine is as fast as a Ryzen 7000 CPU in leaked benchmarks, which I actually have the Ryzen 7800 X3D myself on this computer. Let's see. Was it Geekbench that they were talking about there? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, this is what it's saying my processor, the benchmarks are on, like at least the generic one. I don't know about, I could run the actual benchmark, I suppose, on mine. But yeah, so it's going to be in line with that series of processors, which you have to keep in mind. They're up to the Ryzen 9000 series now. So a little bit older. In terms of that. So that's something to keep in mind. Obviously, it's going to be a lot lower power unit, of course. So that's something to consider. Of course, the Steam Deck is probably running a lot lower wattage and things like that. So it's still pretty impressive, given the small form factor and everything like that. I'm not sure if they're going to have anything for GPU. Okay, let's see what this says here. It says Steam Machine benchmarks show nearly twice the uplift over Steam Deck and comparable to Ryzen 5600. Ooh, that doesn't sound great if that's the case. It really doesn't. If it's only saying twice the power of a Steam Deck, ouch. And they want to charge you like close to $1,100 without a controller. Absolutely insane. Now, it's not necessarily Valve's fault. Now, I did a video a while back, which you could check out there, and there were people that were accusing me of thinking this was all Valve's fault, and I was like gaslighting them and, saying all kinds of bullshit like that, which you've seen the comments on the screen there, because I wanted to highlight those. It's they act like none of it's Valve's fault. It is partially Valve's fault, but the truth is, it is like 80-85% because of this whole AI data center thing, with them buying up the components and doing all of this stuff to make the market pretty volatile right now. It is pretty volatile. I'm really curious what the actual cost of the machine is and how it compares to what they are charging for it on Steam, because you know what, people do stupid shit all the time, so it is going to sell out. I know it is. There are enough people out there and not enough sense out there for that to be a reality. That is going to be a reality. Of course, Sellout is going to be subjective because that depends on how many units they actually made. They might not have made very many units. Maybe they realize, oh shit, we're not going to be able to sell that many units, so we should limit production. We should limit it to maybe like a couple 100,000 units or something like that. So, you know, if that's the case, you know, that it can look like it's super popular when it's really like only the most hardcore and rich people that are buying it at the same time. And there are numerous options out there that you can do that, you know, let's just look up the internet in general here. Small form factor gaming PC. Let's see if I can find like something that we can look at here. Here's an Amazon link. Let's take a look at Amazon. Okay, now these are definitely higher priced for sure, but they are also going to have like the built-in GPUs and stuff like that. We're going to look for something that's in the price range of what the Steam machine is. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at this here, because this is roughly the same price. Okay. So this has the Intel Arc GPU. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to compare to this, because Intel's kind of new to the game in terms of the graphics stuff. But this definitely has a similar kind of look. This actually looks pretty cool. This machine right here. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to compare to the Steam machine in terms of performance, although it is running an older core processor. It's running the 13,000 series. That's a couple years or so old at this point. So that's something to consider. But although that is definitely a higher end of that processor too. So I think that would probably outperform it. You're getting double the NVMe SSD storage, double the RAM. Yeah, so that, yeah, you definitely get a more powerful machine, no problem. Slap Steam OS on there, or probably more like Bazite, because Steam OS doesn't play nice with certain components, and you're off to the races. And you can get that right now. You don't have to wait for, you know, pre-order time frames, you know, going on a wait list and all this other crap. You know, so just absolutely insane. So, I mean, if you're going to get one of these, I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to see if you think this is fair, if you think this is acceptable. If maybe you think you are being gouged, but you don't really care that much because you just really want this thing. Because you know, want to have this form factor, this experience. Maybe you already have the Steam controller, or you're just going to plug a controller in, or whatever the case might be. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that, and thank you very much for checking out this video. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to check out the video right above me. That should be the most recent one, or the one the algorithm's going to recommend. YouTube does wacky things sometimes, and the other one in the other corner is going to be the other one, depending on what YouTube decides it wants to do. I always try to make that the most recent though. And then don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet, but that's gonna be the last line.